as what Maharishi always says, like we always have to define things what we are trying to talk about. As long as we have that bounded definition, we should be good to proceed further. So, so I would like to thank Vethathiri Maharishi for even making me eligible to have this conversation. Dr. Rabindranath, who is always there and always I see both sides of him where he wants to learn new things. He also tries to give a lot of knowledge infused in me. All the Sky's teacher, Balachandraya, Lakshmanaya, all of the teachers who have helped me, Perumalaya, Shan, everybody who has helped me learn what Maharishis have to say, all the Sky scholars who are patient enough to learn from me, the Guru at various eras who have come to this point, all the scientists who have got to this point, and all the teachers who are imparting knowledge into all the people. So thank you very much for all of people that I would like to be grateful about. I started off this presentation to be like less than 10 slides, but eventually, unfortunately, it went to 25 slides. The first few slides I'm going to just skim through to give an introduction of what is, and then get into the work that I've been doing for the past 1 year, understanding various concepts and mathematically trying to deduce what we are getting to. So first, this is the what Maharishi's take on life. In general, what we think about life is something different, and what Maharishi says is life in its commencing state is only an ethereal particle in self-rotating motion. And when it swirls to acquire a concrete form and shape, then it becomes the seed cell. The first cell that it becomes is the self-compressing rotative force, and it always spins, and the structures are maintained based on the spinning force of the physical body. When the structure slips into dilapidation, or it just structures are not able to maintain beyond repair, life quits, and then the habituation goes into merges with the other life and universe at large. So that's like what Maharishi has defined in his book of life and before and after death. So then he goes on to say life is only one, Advaitic philosophy. In general, what we talk about life is Advaitic philosophy. But then life is only one, and it's energy pervading the entire space and activating all physical bodies. So it's all the same. All the life and everything is same, Advaitic. There is no duality. The speciality is that it expresses itself in accordance with the body or sense it functions through. So life is same, but it functions through a medium that it works. It always maintains that medium consistently. It does not go beyond. That's the law of nature. So if the life is operating through me, it always ensures that it is operating through the medium that it has taken. If it is operating through a cat, it always ensures that it operates through the cat's existence. So life is only but an account of innumerable functional feelings. It appears to be in millions in number. So it's basically, it's the functional feeling in different forms, but in general, it is only one energy, and it's only one energy that is pervading through the entire space, activating all the physical body. Okay. So then we move further from, this is what we've been talking about various times about divine dust particle and its size, space, and spinning. So it's bubbly, it could be different sizes, it could be like this, it could be spinning. It's getting attracted to the center. The periphery is much more faster than the center, where it is much more thicker and slower. So different spinning speeds, and when this divine dust particle is formed out of living being, it's called life force particle, and it's a galaxy of existence in our life being. So that's the formation of life force particle, the divine dust particle formed from the living being. Okay. What does the divine dust particle does? Divine dust particle is the first in the fundamental transformation of space. Divine dust particle is the first child of space, Almighty, or last, and eventually divine dust particle becomes the Panchabhutas. Sorry, if I'm too fast, do stop me, because I'm just skimming through the introduction before what I got into my mathematical equation. So this is divine dust particle that becomes Panchabhutas. Then we have mind, which is the biomagnetic wave coming from life force particle is mind. Life force particle are the million minutest particle that we looked about. Divine dust particle in a living being is mind. And the obstruction lead to perception. The diversion causes pain. Exhaustion causes hunger. Okay, so different forms of how the biomagnetic force works through mind of the life force. Then these are the few things that the mind works from sensation all the way to conclusion. Until a sensation happens, the mind doesn't take any of these ones. So if there is no sensation, nothing happens. So how this sensation works through the biomagnetic wave interacting the obstructions of the energy and the perception that we leads you to certain conclusion. So this is the from the divine dust particle how life works. How does this work is through a wave function. So it has clash, reflection, refraction, penetration, and interaction, eventually creating 5 qualities: magnetic, electrical, chemical, mechanical, and psychic wave that it forms based on this clash, reflection, refraction, penetration, and interaction. Okay, the wave methods that Maharishi talks about. Now, we also know that brain frequency is between certain cycles. So we have beta state, we have alpha state, theta state, and delta state. So hopefully, in this presentation, we try to at least remain in alpha state to understand certain intuitive knowledge that I was trying to impart or try to conclude from the Maharishi's teachings. MER's teachings and all the masters who have been presenting over a period of time. Now, the title is about life force, which we have already been talking for many times, and how it relates to mind or physical existence. So, what is mathematics, right? Most people who think mathematics, they always think mathematics is just numbers and measuring and everything. But mathematics is beyond that. It's a science of structure, order. So you can relate to what Maharishi talks about consciousness, right? Mathematics is reasoning consciousness. Consciousness is unreasoned mathematics. In a way, comes into science of structure, order, and relation that has evolved from elemental particles of elemental practices of counting, measuring, describing the shapes. It deals with logical reasoning, quantitative calculation, and its development has now involved in increasing degree of idealization, abstraction in its subject matter. So what started off with counting got into more idealization and abstraction. So now you can closely relate to consciousness. Okay, mathematics still has its own structure where it has to be bound within its reasoning world. It still does not come out of the reasoning world. It still is bound within the reasoning world, but it still is going beyond just counting, measuring, and describing the shape of the object. It is going to a logical reasoning, quantitative calculation, and developing involved idealization and abstraction. Isn't that conscious? So when people say, when I find the first chemical that created everything, all the chemicals, then chemistry ceased to exist. When I find the first energy particle that created everything in this world, physics ceased to exist. When I create the first living object from where I can create all the living object, biology ceased to exist. Similarly, mathematics will cease to exist when it falls into consciousness. As long as there is a division between not falling into consciousness, mathematics thus is considered to be the queen of science, because it goes to the fundamental of even more what the science of physics, chemistry, and biology is. It's leading us to get into what is called consciousness. Okay, so that's defining each of the subject that we have come to so far. Now, moving on further, what this is something that people have been telling us over a period of time, what these chakras are, and approximately the language that was generated over a period of time is based on the petals and the chakras, that is the major 7 chakras in the body. So we all know there are 112 chakras in the body. 4 of them are non-manipulatable. 108 are manipulatable chakras, or we can work with that and energize and de-energize them. And out of that, there are 7 major chakras based on which every of these other chakras work. And each chakra has its center bija mantras and then the petals. And each petals accordingly has its sound or resonance that happens. And based on the resonance, all these mantras and the poems were created. Especially if you look at Vishuddhi, this is the vowels in the language. So these are similar to both. I couldn't find an equal image for Tamil. So just these are all Proto-Indian languages. So if you look specifically at Vishuddhi, which is through the throat region, it has all the vowels in it. So the evolution of Indian language is primarily based on how these chakras and the measurement of these chakric sound of resonance is what influenced Indian mathematics and Indian mathematicians, which eventually led to what we call something called a shunya, or the zero under the Om right there, is what created the decimal number system that is prevalently used in the current mathematical field. Okay, so that's the relation between the language that is spoken, the chakras that is involved in the language, and then we go into things. So next, I'm trying to mathematically measure a mantra. Okay, so I take a mantra, say this is famously known as the Gayatri mantra, and then somehow people have related these Gayatri mantras to a certain numbering field, and then they have measured, like the first name Om Bhurvuvasva Tatsaviturvarenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yona Prachodayat is a famous Purna mantra in Sanskrit, which means it's a holistic mantra. And then they have somehow measured each of these alphabets and then came with a number. And if you total this number, it comes to 689. And what this number signifies, 9 is the 9 different holes in the body, 6 plus 8 is 14. 14 is like one Akash element that created the other 4 elements. And thus, this Gayatri mantra involves the entire universe. Okay, so that's what people interpret Gayatri mantra as. Then coming to one of the Tirukural, the first Tirukural, Agara Mudala Ezhuthellam Adi Bhagavan Mudattrai Ulage. Similarly, people related this to a number, and then eventually they came in with a number that says this Kural is pertaining to number 3, 1, and 0. 3 gunas become 1 and eventually become static. So as long as we have the 3 gunas in this world, that becomes as one energy field, eventually becomes static. That becomes what mathematically Thiruvalluvar is trying to say in this Kural. But is this really true? How are we misled in these things mathematically? That's where I'm trying to get into is both these are absolutely wrong. What you see here in this mantra and the line that they're talking about is wrong, completely wrong. This is also completely wrong. Purposely, I put these 2 slides to make people understand that numerologically, when they try to equate these alphabets into certain number and they retrofitly say that, see, our language is so beautiful, it's so mathematically precise, and see how it measured the entire universe. This is what we are being consistently fooled in the name of mathematics. People saying that they retrofitly get this number and then work through it. Take this, put it into any AI tool, it is assumed that this is what it is. And then it gives you certain numbers. That's the reason why I had this slide particularly saying that the alphabets are nothing to do with numbers. The alphabets are the resonance of sound that is produced, which is the frequency of our body. The measurement of those frequency is what mathematics is supposed to do, which is physics does it, rather than a physical number. These alphabets do not represent a physical number. These alphabets do not represent this. Anybody who comes and says this is the mantra and this is the reason why it happens and everything, I can clearly tell you, Gayatri mantra represents the pi value. Any mantra that starts in Sanskrit always starts with an Om, which represents the pi values first 3.1416 approximately, 3.1419, whichever way you wanted to say. It always starts with 3 and followed by a sequence of numbers that it works. That is not measured by the decimal numbers. That is measured by resonance. So if anybody comes and tells you mathematically this is what these numbers and mantras are saying, please do not believe in that. It is not what it is meant. It is a subtler mathematical existence, which is what we will try to dwell later during the session and maybe next session too. Okay, so these two slides are wrong. I purposely put it to make sure that you know. Modern mathematics, how did the modern mathematics evolve over a period of time? Is this Virtuvian man, if anybody knows about it, there's an intriguing problem that is still not solved by mathematics. I'm hoping, and the world hoping, that when they solve this Virtuvian man's problem, we will end up into something called conscious existence. So what this Virtuvian man has is, interestingly, is 5 elements that is happening, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then the 5, the body existence, is a square versus circle problem. Okay, we all know very, very easily that when you have a square, we will be able to measure the area of a square. Very, very easy to do. You do the multiply this side by this side, mathematically, that's the area of the square. So if this side is 2 in mathematic terms, and this side will also be 2. 2 times 2, 4 square centimeter. For instance, centimeter is the measuring form. That's the area of the square. Nothing increased or wrong. But when you have a circle inside the square, will you be able to tell exactly what is the area of the circle? Though the area of the circle is less than the area of the square, we cannot still measure and tell mathematically what is the exact area of the square, of the circle, even though we know it can be less than that. So based on that, where mathematics started evolving over a period of time. All these numbering systems and everything started evolving over a period of time. The biggest contribution to that is the zero, the shunya or pujyam in Indian language, started contributing towards the numbering system. Okay, so that's when we start getting into the equations that I've started working on it. I'm trying to give you as layman as possible. So there are two things, right? In Tamil, what we call ennangal is all closely related. The number can go to infinite form. Similarly, the numbers, the thought process that we have can also go to infinite form. In a finite number world, you take any number 1 to n, you can tell the sum of the number by simply going to this formula. N into n plus 1 by 2 will give you the sum of the number. For instance, what is sum of 1 plus 2? Take 2. 2 in 2 plus 1 is 3. 3 times is 6. 6 divided by 2 is 3. 2 plus 1 is 3. In a finite form, you should definitely be able to use this number to get into a finite number. But coming to divergence series, this is a famous equation that Srinivasa Ramanujam solved using the Riemann zeta function of negative integers. Okay, I'm not going to get into Riemann zeta functions. That's currently used in quantum mechanics and string theory. But what intuitively that we got, this is very easy. This is instinctively, I can tell you. Take any n number of numbers, I can get into it. This is where the intuition comes into play, and how the mathematics is going from just the numbering system into more conscious awareness. Okay, in a day, so this is Srinivasa Ramanujam's theory, how he found out that when you take numbers to infinity, he intuitively found out it is minus 1 by 12. This is not by chance. Okay, 12 is a very significant number. How many hours in a day? 24. 12 hours is morning, 12 hours is in the night. That's how it's divided. In a day, we are expected to be awake 12 hours. We are expected to be sleeping or resting or in a state for 12 hours. Anytime you take your thought process, okay, and then you leave it to infinite form, we will lose 12 hours of our life. Okay, that is how he intuitively found out this divergent series where the n angle or the thought process goes to infinity. We will lose 12, half of our day. Okay, forming a divergent series. At that time, Riemann zeta function was the only one that was available to mathematically prove it. When he proved this divergent series is -1/2, Hardy pulled him into Oxford University, and then this beautiful merge happened. Based on the proof that Srinivasa Ramanujan produced on this divergent series using Riemann zeta function, again, the reason why I'm dwelling more into it is what the modern quantum mechanics and string theory is. It's not based on Riemann zeta function. It's based on the proof he gave around this, is what the modern science of quantum mechanics is working, and modern space theory is all about. How they are able to measure the light years and everything was primarily based on how he was able to solve this divergent series. Okay, this is puzzling to me yet. I haven't got to a point where I could use this divergence series into life force and life force particle. I was not able to get to that point yet, which is what I'm trying and struggling my own. There is no existing book or theory available. I'm purely going based on what Maharishi has said, what we have been talking about life force and life force particle. And I'll come back to it and try to tell you why I'm trying to solve this divergence series in terms of life force and life force particle to get to what mathematics could attain by getting into the conscious realm. Okay. So yeah, just keep this in mind. Anything finite is easily formed. Anything infinite is going slowly into conscious existence. There are different methods and mechanisms which are currently used in many of these mechanics that we have been working on. So now, one of the basic things that I've started working on is basic fundamental mathematical existence, which we call as differential calculus, antiderivatives or integral calculus, and then the new science of mathematics that's come into picture in the last 50 years is the stochastic calculus. Okay, so defining what is differential calculus is you have certain things in your hand right now, and then you want to know what it actually contains. Okay, in biology, what we do is called dissection. Okay, you take a flower or certain things. What you do is you take it, you dissect into as small parts, small things as possible, and you get to a point where you can measure a cell or measure a property. Okay, you take a flower, you dissect to a certain situation, you get to a flower or a cell level existence. You take a molecule or an element available that is around you, you keep dissecting the element to certain form, you get to a chemical equation where it tells you the structure of the chemical equation and also the atoms and molecules that is involved in it is in chemistry. You take a force or an energy particle and then you try to divide the energy particle into a certain form. Ultimately you find out whether this is mechanical energy, it's a chemical, it's produced from a chemical energy, or any that energy level simplification or dividing them into that small form is called differentiation. Differential, in mathematical terms, it's called differential calculus. You take a formula and then you take the divisional part, and then when the divisional part goes to zero, what is the minimalistic thing that you can look at? Similarly, what Maharishi has tried to do is we take this entire life, we try to divide that into as small particle as small thing as possible. Eventually, we went below cells, we went below atoms, we below subatomic particles into something called what he called as divine dust particle, or in a living being, we call as life force particle. So using this methodology, how can I divide the entire body going into the subtle level of divine dust particle or the life force particle used differential calculus. Now what happens is the other way around, right? We take this life force particle and then we merge this life force particle into combine them together as much as we can into something called a living being. So find from the living being, how can you divide that into small life force particle, and how the life force particle, the divine dust particle, disintegrates, all the way from integrating or taking the divine dust particle, integrating all the way into what we call as life and life force particle. So that's mathematical way of looking at life and life force. Now, something came up in the last 50 years. It's called the stochastic calculus. Unfortunately, this one came in to solve problems. This has been there for a while. Okay, if you go back in time, when you look at probability theory, there were a lot of probability theories that was happening over a period of time. But a stochastic calculus came in at the advent of World War II. Okay, when people started using mathematics to calculate and destroy the enemy. It's not said that mathematics was never used for that. Okay, everybody knows the person who said, "Eureka! I found out the problem." Archimedes, right? Archimedes died in a street as an unknown person, naked. The reason why that happened is the mathematical formula he created over a period of time was not used for humanity. It was used for war and destructions of people. He was so disgusted by his life, he threw every wealth that he had away and died in the street as a pauper, naked, without knowing anything. But consciousness has its way through. We are doing the other way around. What happened or created for destruction of life during World War II is now transformed into what we call a stochastic calculus based on probabilistic theory, into what we would introduce into what we call the modern science, the AI revolution. Anywhere you look at the molecular protein molecular diagnosis, anywhere we look at quantum mathematics and quantum physics that came into picture, has been started using the stochastic calculus over a period of time, which uses a randomized process and a function into probabilistic manner into field, where it is used in finance right now, physics, engineering, mathematical biology, to modeling system and influence randomness and uncertainty based on certain probabilistic functionality. So what I have used is the stochastic calculus process, where in differential calculus, it is divided subtly into small particles, integrated into bigger particles. In a stochastic calculus, we randomize this and try to produce certain things across. So again, any questions so far, anyone? Unless it's going too far in your head. Because the reason why I'm dwelling on this is because when I show you the results, what I found would probably make you aware of what this is going on. So stochastic calculus, taking further down, it's a process of collection of random variables indexed by time. Essentially, it is a model that the evolution of a system where the future state depends on both what the current state is and some randomized element. Okay, so this is what we have to remember. The method that I've used is the reason why I chose stochastic calculus is because it's collection of random variable indexed at a time. So I know what has happened up until this point. Now I randomize this based on certain elements, introduce certain elements that could produce certain things over a period of time to project what it could happen. Okay. One of the most famous methodology that is used in stochastic calculus is called linear process or Brownian motion. A Brownian motion, anybody who is in physics vouch by it, saying Brownian motion is the thing that revolutionized entire physics, was actually a mathematical equation created by Linear. And a Brownian motion initially started with something, and now it's divided into three sections. What I've used is geometric Brownian motion, where I used the particle suspended in three-dimensional existence. Okay, it's a process where a simplest example of stochastic process where serves as the fundamental foundational concept of calculus, where W, a random variable WZ is equal to 0, always starts with 0, and WT, or at any point of time, a Brownian point at any point of time, is independent incremental, where you take the previous process with the current process will always be normally distributed with the average 0 and the variance is t minus s. Okay, so the average and variance and the path is continuous and not differentiable. This is where things comes interesting, where the things are continuous. Life is continuous. We always take mathematics when it takes to differential calculus, integral calculus. We take it as distinct to continuity. So what Brownian motion does is we take a particle and its motion in a continuous form, which cannot be differentiated, but can be integrated into a certain form. Okay, the standard stochastic calculus is the differentiation of a random variable that we take x of t is the mu average of the random variable differentiated, and the sigma, the variance that I talked about with the Brownian motion or the element of randomization that happens around that particle. Let's take it as particle because we are looking at life force particle. A random life force particle is movement of the life force particle is the average movement of each particle with a variance of how much it could vary over a period of time with the element of the environment it is in, which is the Brownian motion. Okay, so that's the equation. And Ito is a famous Japanese mathematician who created this Ito lemma of how you can do partial differentiation over a period of time to hidden. But the problem with Ito lemma is he used that for bombing the Pearl Harbor. Okay, so that's where I said this stochastic calculus was used in World War II for destruction. What happened to Archimedes is reversed. We are now using this for construction. Okay, so there are certain properties, what we call in stochastic calculus theories or assumptions that we need to do. Is martingale is a stochastic process where the expected value of the next observation, given that all past observation is equal to the current observation. In other words, any observation at any point of time, if I take one life force particle, it should be equal to what it has happened in the past. The drift, there is no drift, there is no trend. Okay, it's a fair game. I'm assuming that it's a fair game. Each life force particle is fair enough that I take two different life force particles, it should have similar properties. I'm not expecting one life force particle to be so big and one life force particle to be so small. So as long as this assumption is true, the martingale exists, I can put that in a stochastic calculus form. And then I integrate it over a period of time, or I take the small life force particle at one point of time based on certain assumptions that there is no drift and it works exactly the way it is. I took liberty from Maharishi's book of how it has to be done in a form. And then you integrate over a period of time, you get a randomized process or in a Brownian motion form to form what we call as the linear process. Okay. And one more thing that I also picked up is the Markov chain. Okay. Like our karma theory, what Markov chain says is that you take anything at any given point of time, it really doesn't matter what it is going to be. It really doesn't matter what its past is. Whatever the property of that particle at that particular point of time is sufficient enough for me to make a decision. So if I am living right now, it really doesn't matter what my childhood has been. It really doesn't matter what I'm going to do with my life. What is sufficiently known is what my existence or the presence as of now. This is the truth, and this can determine anything that I want to, and this can never change. So I took the liberty of karma consciousness, where living in now, used in mathematics as Markov process or Markov chain, is a famous Russian mathematician. So you can look here. There is an Ito integral, which is a Japanese mathematician, a Markov process, which is a Russian mathematician, a martingale, which is uh, American probability theory, with Srinivasa Ramanujan's divergence series, with an Indian mathematician working in Oxford University, which is UK-based mathematician, along with I started with the Virtuvian man, who is an Italian mathematician, Newton, going all the way to a French mathematician who started the um, evolution of the probability theory. So it's the commemoration of all these mathematicians working together to get to this process. So what I did was I took all this information, assuming that the life force particle cannot drift, it is particular part of time. I sit in a meditation and decided to have two different sections. When I measured through my process, I took two different measures. One measure, I felt one parameter. Okay, wake up in the morning, I feel good. I don't feel good. My own measurement. Okay, the assumption, assuming that it's a martingale, there is no drift. If I feel good, I take the parameter as good and the positive side of it. If I take the assume that I wake up in the morning, I don't feel good, I take this as the negative feeling. So I start the drift going either above the energy field, or I take the drift going below the energy field. Okay. The first measurement is where I took the measurement and say, as I said, there are two major parameters, which is the mu, the mean, the average of what my measurement is, and the variance of how many days I have been feeling good, how many days I have not been feeling good. Okay, based on how much my energy level is, based on how much my energy level is not. An average and the variance of the average is what I took, applied through these Ito integrals and martingale. And when I don't feel good and then I start meditating, this is what the drift happened to me. I start with the day with some energy, and then I feel negative throughout the day, or don't feel the energy happening throughout the day, and simulated it over 10,000 times with almost 1 year worth of data that I have found out. The data includes, as I said, how do I feel from the beginning when I meditate, what happens to me at this particular point of time, the measurement I take it from the device that I showed in the last presentation, and how does it work simulated across. See, the Brownian motion is a simulated process. It's simulated across 10,000 times. I found out this is the drift that goes to my left side of the body. Okay. And then another drift that goes to the right side of the body. So this is the drift. I start at the end. You can naturally see I've been meditating for a long period of time. So most of the days I don't even have negative feelings. The negative starts very, very low at the end, whereas my positive feeling is always there. So my right side of the movement is always more. So how did I get to this point that measuring this one is going to give me the measuring of life force particle? That's I'm going to come further down. So I just want everybody to focus on this. I'll give some time, so if you have any questions around this, you can ask before I go into the next part where I'm equating it to something else. Okay, so this is my positive thought, or I would say more energy thought on my right side. This is more what eventually it become is this. So at any given point of time, my life force particle, when it starts randomizing, goes around this and then converges to my Mooladhara, starts again from the top of the head and then randomizes and eventually comes down to my Mooladhara, a convergence series. So in a form of existence, this is what actually came into being. On a given day, when I said like, okay, now let me feel like this, I purposely make myself down and then do this. This is how it actually worked. My right side of the measurement comes through this with the simulated process, with the energy, with the measurements that I did. This is the left side of energy where initially I had a very, very positive thought process goes through this, and negative thought process, or non-negative thought process, a down process. It sometimes led to a very, very bad situation, like I had to go to a doctor. This is probably the time when I contracted a disease or felt cold or fever or something like that. The more it goes away from my body, the more down my energy is. The more it goes away on this side, the more I felt in one with the universal existence. Eventually, when I merged them together, what happened was this is how randomizedly it looked around my body. This is a year worth of data that I measured with the electrometer called Muse that I talked about. And that's how my life force particle over a year simulated over a Brownian motion could be simulated as. Okay. So does this make any sense to anyone, or does it equate to something that we have been always talking about? Anyone wants to talk about it or ask question? There's a big silence. I don't know if you are following me or you're completely lost in the work that have been done. But
This is
We are following.
beyond.
Yeah.
We are following this very nice presentation. I am able to understand something. Okay. Very good mathematical equations.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. What is all about? We will further.
Yeah, I'll go further down. So what it eventually led me to is what we have been talking so far. What I'm showing you right now is the convergence series, where it started from the head, going all the way to the Muladhara, and then the magnetic field going up. What I'm not able to measure yet is the divergence series. That's the reason why I showed you at the very beginning, not the convergence series, the divergence series that I have showed you at the beginning. So this eventually, when I'm randomizing this, it goes into multiple, say for instance, I'm picking this one, right? When I'm randomize my life force particle or my existence based on the parameters, it's going zigzag because Brownian motion is all about randomization. When I differentiate that into single one, this one randomization has its own meaning towards it. Slowly, when I try to make them as a convergence series, this is what my mathematical equation found. And the major part of this mathematical equation, what I found was what the Higgs bosons equation. So when Higgs bosons happened in 2023, they released a mathematical equation. It took me 2 years to first understand what Higgs boson is trying to do, then try to integrate it with the stochastic calculus process, the Ito integral, and the Markov chain. Take the data that I have so far, just measuring myself. When I found this randomization using the Higgs boson's formula, it ended up into a polarity up. There is one polarity here and another polarity here. Life force particle moving from head to toe, non-randomized fashion, provided a medium of static existence. Okay, a medium of static existence. This I was not able to get anywhere until I started studying the Higgs boson's formula and the Higgs example that has happened, which I will explain in the next one. When the randomization becomes streamlined, it becomes such a polarity that it starts from the head and then comes down to the base of the body. So if you see here, everything starts here, goes randomized, eventually converges to my 100 energy level, because this is when I start. So for instance, I started with 100 unit, feel positive. Towards the end of the day, I feel that the same energy level is what I have. That's the convergence series. There is a divergence series that I haven't got into a mathematical formula, where the energy particle does not come here, it gets dissipated like this. The one that goes away from the head, one that goes away from the Muladhara. This dissipation now slowly started making sense to the first mathematical problem that we have, the Virtuvian man. So if you see here and you see here, there is some relationship. And if the randomization becomes streamlined, it becomes this. Okay, how did my assumption work, get into this situation is what I've been telling here. Now, if you go back to the assumption, I assume that my observation is a martingale where there is no drift. It has to be specifically working on a certain form. And you integrate that, the linear motions, you integrate through over a period of time using the Ito integral, and assuming that at any point of time, the particle in itself is what it is. I don't care. I don't have to know what its past is. I don't have to know what its future is. I have to know what the particle is at that point of time. So how did I measure that? Is basically at any point of time, instead of just meditating in the morning and instead of meditating only in the evening, at any point of time given randomly chosen time during the day, I would sit 5 minutes of meditation and measure my brain wave any random time. People were thinking I'm crazy. Right in the middle of the meeting, if I have a meeting in the office, I sit there, and then if I get 5 minutes time, I take the instrument, put it in my head, calm down myself, and measure the last 2 minutes of my meditation, what my brain wave length is. Put it into an Excel. Due diligently measured what it is. Then I go back to my meeting and do my regular work. Then come back, assuming the Markov chain that I don't have to know what I have done so far, but I know what I am right now. If I started the day assuming that my feeling is not good, maybe I'm down, maybe I have a fever, I have a cold, I don't feel myself better, I don't feel energetic myself, any measure that happens during that day, I go it on the left side of me, my negative side. I assume that the energy goes there. See, again, there are a lot of assumptions in here. This is why I'm trying to reiterate and stress the point. And then anytime I feel positive, any measurements that I do over a period of time, I take it to the right side of my measurement. Eventually, everything that converges. When I sleep in the night, I do another measurement on myself and try to find out what my energy level is. If I feel the same energy level as what I was at the beginning of the day, it converges. If I feel more tired, it diverges, it goes away. I don't know what happens if I feel the energy level more than what I am. That's another experiment that I have to sit through. I don't know how long it's going to take. But to get to this level, eventually, when I streamlined it, I found out this is what happened. How this happened is where the Higgs boson came into picture. Okay, when the experiment came into action, this is exactly how the Higgs boson. So there are assumptions in Higgs boson. What happens is there is a Higgs static scalar field or a static field. Okay, approximately this is what we call as Shivakalam. If we assume this is the Shivakalam, because we tell Shivakalam is the static state. Unless the Shivakalam exists, nothing exists in this world. So Higgs static field mathematically is approximately, if we approximate it to say, again, this is all approximation of one existence to the other. Higgs static field is approximately the Shivakalam that we are in. The energy field that happens within the Higgs field, that the measurement of this Higgs field that has happened is the Shakti Kalam. Okay, in a life force particle, what happens is you look at how Higgs bosons work. Anything that is red in color is where the energy is lost. Okay, anything that there is blue is where the energy converges into. And it so happened, okay, in the measurement of it, it so happened that it is in this form is how the Higgs bosons works. And we clearly know that, again, this is where I was confused how to interpret this. Doctor, when I spoke to Doctor the other day, he clearly said, remember what Maharishi said, Mooladhara is not at the base of the spine, it's slightly above the base of the spine. And I was like puzzled when he said that. That's when, oh my God, yes, that's what Maharishi keeps on saying. We are not at the base of the spine. The base of the spine converges, but it's a floating point 2 or 3 centimeters above the base. If you look at how Higgs bosons worked, I mean, I can go into mathematically how it went. You see, The top comes, it converges to the bottom, and the center floats slightly above where the convergence happens. Again, it's a three-dimensional measure. It's not exactly as it is, it's just for illustration purpose. And that is where our Mooladhara exists. It's not where it converges. So when I was doing my measurement, I converged at the base, and it was not streamlining. It went slightly above, and it is a floating point above where the convergence happens. And that's where our Mooladhara, or the spiritual center, or the genetic center, exists. When I was puzzled as to say, was talking to Dr. Rabindranath and asking like how I can understand and tell what this convergence happens, the deep blue here, but I don't understand why there's a slight upward curvature. And clearly said, this is what Maharishi simply said, that your Mooladhara is, your genetic center is 2 or 3 centimeters above your anus muscle. That's clearly opened up my entire research work into where we stand now. So having Higgs bosons and how it worked, mathematically getting into the data that I have and able to measure life force particle. Again, Higgs boson is not life force particle. This is the smallest we are able to measure. Again, not see, it's measure as of now, simulated through a standard model that they have created in CERN over a period of time. And it has no parity, the environments. If you look at the assumption, there is a scalar field, and then the energy particle remains massive even at a higher energy level. It has zero spin, okay, the center, even positive, no parity, no positive, no electric charge, no color, and it's coupled with an interactive mass. And this is very, very unstable and decaying into other particles almost immediately via several possible pathways. And that several pathways is what I was able to simulate through my program with the data that I have. So again, it took in 2022 they had this Galvin thing, and 2023 is where they got this exact measurement that we got. The GeV, what you know, is the giga electron voltage. That's small. Life force particle is again much more subtler. So my experiment and what has been done mathematically or shown in the Higgs boson experiment clearly shows that even in a randomized state, in a static scalar field, when the energy converges at the bottom, see, again, this is not inverted. They found the energy is converging at the bottom. There's a small curvature going up where it is concentrated, approximately telling us is where our genetic center or the Mooladhara is. And energy, anything that is getting dissipated or moving away is happening from the periphery, or which is the top of our head. The divergence that is happening is on the top, not at the bottom as of now, and through the experiment. And there is a small aperture up right there, which is where everything centers. With that, I rest my talk, and if you have any questions, please do ask.
It needs a lot of time to understand for me, which is really great research. Awesome. Yeah, Imbiara, yeah.
Let others give their feelings, opinions. They'll come at the last.
வாழ்க வளமுடன்.
Yeah.
That Mooladhara Genetic Center, as you said, Maharishi was telling, just above the 1 inch between either Karua and Eruvai,
Right.
between anus and genetic organ, between the middle point of that one, and
Correct.
1 inch above that bottom line, okay, pelvic region, 1 inch above and 1 inch from the sideways and the spinal cord end, and 1 inch from that end you come. That meeting point of 1 inch above and 1 inch sideways is the jantic point. So
Right.
in your picture also you are showing a upward curvature, in the middle point at
Right.
the bottom, H boson
Right.
picture you shown there. So that is correct. Is it 3 centimeter or 2 centimeter? It is nearly equal to 1 inch. Okay.
Right.
So the picture is correct. What Mother says is also correct. It is a protein point. And that is the janting pointer is where the energy level is there. A very good presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, being a physics professor, if you are telling me that kind of means a lot to me. Thank you very much. Yeah, and you've been with Maharishi for so long, and some of these translation I showed here already is actually your words in English, what Maharishi has said, and that's so much I could get out of those words, and then could relate it to this up to this point of my research work. Again, this is convergence, not divergence. I have to work on the divergence research.
Okay. Right. Okay.
Because this is where I'm thinking that the life force particle is coming back into our body, not the life force particle that is going out of the body. So based on what I could get from Higgs boson, so now I'm studying further into the equation of how they are scattering particle is being measured. That's going to take some more time for me, but this is until where the convergence happens, and how Maharishi, even before this experiment many years ago, was able to tell exactly how it converges. And it's not exactly the point where most people would tell that it is where everything meets, but he said it's not where it meets, it's slightly above, equally distributed, and a point where it is floating. I don't know what kind of intuition Maharishi had, but amazingly, he was able to tell this many years ago. So
I have a basic question before that.
Yeah.
So we have the measurement from for the particle with Maharishi has given time, distance, volume, and force. So where we are fitting those in the measurement of life force particles in between divine dust particle.
So the four place, see, even in Higgs, there's a scalar field right now, so which is the static form. Okay, and then there is a dynamic force that happens over a period of time. So each of these diamond shapes that you see here is the differential equal to zero, almost equal to zero. Okay, when it moves from one point to the other, which we call as time measure. Okay, that's where I used some of the equations right here. Okay, look at the assumptions that I say, right? The martingale process means there is no drift. Okay, so at any point of time, that particle is spinning on itself and it exists there. If I take the same particle and look it at the other point of time, it also spins and it exists. Maybe it is at a different scalar point on the medium, which is our plenum. It could be at a different scalar point, but each of these particles has no drift or there is no trend. They are always in themselves same as what they are. But the movement around the scalar particle or the scalar definition or that medium, what we call the plenum, is randomized at this point of time because we think everything is randomized. So each particle is unique in itself and self-contained. And in order to measure that particle, I do not have to know what all the path it took. At any point of time, that particle in itself contains everything that it needs. That is Markov chain.
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So, does Maharishi's definition of the divine dust particle allow us to model it mathematically, or do you think it's forever beyond empirical simulation?
Sorry, your voice was.
Can you hear me? Am I audible?
Yeah. Go ahead.
So I'm asking, Vethathiri Maharishi's definition of divine dust particle allow us to model it mathematically? Or do you think it is forever beyond empirical simulation?
By our what? Sorry, again your voice faded away then.
Yeah, do you think definition, Vethathiri Maharishi's definition?
Oh, do you think Vethathiri Maharishi's definition can be proved mathematically?
Allow us to model it mathematically.
Yes, that's what I'm trying to do right now.
Okay.
I haven't got to that point. I have got to a point where I could say what Maharishi said about Mooladhara is slightly above using the current existing model. So now I have to not randomize. That's what I said. This is convergence series where it merges. I have to work on the divergence series where how the divine dust particle could get disintegrated outside the body. Okay, and then measure them together, because Higgs bosons also has a part where when they measured it, this is where the convergence happened, where each particle is converged. There is a scenario where these red things that you see here, these are all divergent, where the energy gets dissipated outside. They haven't got to the point of measuring it. So remember one thing, right? This is thousands of scientists working through the process. I'm alone trying to merge them with what Maharishi has said. So I will need more people to help me out with this theory, definitely. But hopefully every one of you can help me out with this process of trying to understand it. But this is what I have got with my experiences so far with all the experiments that I have done. So just to let you know, to create one simulation right here, it takes me at least my PC runs to get to this result. It takes at least 24 hours to run. I've already burned through 2 computers because it could not handle it. I have 2 computers where the microchip has actually burned itself because it was not able to run the simulation. The heat that it produced for creating the simulation destroyed 2 of my computers already. So now I have an even more powerful computer. I'm trying to do this.
Yeah. Maybe you need a GPU.
I that's what the current one I'm using is a very high GPU, but again, it's still not able to do it. If I have to build my own PC, it's going to cost me at least $20,000. I'm trying to save money for that. Each GPU that I need is costing around $4,000, and I need at least 4 of those GPUs to simulate that. Right now, I'm using Google's centralized code to simulate that. But I know hopefully I'll get it there sometime soon. But yeah, just the convergence series took that long. It uses a lot of CPU power. Considering what they did here, many years and many scientists sit together. I'm grateful that I don't have to do something like this personally here. That I'm piggyback on there, and I'm trying to equate it to them. So yes, it's a lot of computing power and a lot of thought process. So when I was telling this to doctor, he asked me like one question he asked me that threw me away was like, how many hours do you sleep in a day? So I was like, I don't know. I don't sleep. I don't measure my sleeping measure because my single thought process is somehow try to get to this one and get it. So maybe 2 hours, 3 hours a day is what I sleep. I sit through my experiments, try to change the mean and variance and everything to get to this point. So I'm grateful that there are many people around the scientific world for helping me out with this. But yeah, what I completely agree with you, the CPU, the machines that I have is not powerful enough to simulate what Maharishi did. And that's where it gives me an awful thought process. I'm amazed at how he was able to get this much intuitively.
Okay, one more question. You said, you spoke about the genetic center being slightly above the anus, right? Anus muscle. And from your meditative experience, how do you feel this maps to the energetic convergence point?
So I have always felt that the Mooladhara is not at the base of the spine. Okay, first instinctively, then over a period of meditative uh, time, I've found that doing Ashwini Mudra is not helping me find where my Mooladhara is. I have to let myself calm down, get into a. So again, this is based on the measurement that the tool that I have is where my brain process goes below the measurement of the instrument. That's when I am able to find out that the boundary of my body slowly gives away, and then the convergence happens slightly above. So when I come back consciously, I am not able to tell exactly where it is in my physical body. But when I go into a thought process where it is very, very subtle, when the boundary slowly vanishes, it the energy starts slowly going up little higher. I can't tell you in inches or centimeter, but it's slightly higher than what conventionally is being told as the base of the spine. It's not there, it's slightly higher than that place.
Karthikeyan.
Yes, doctor.
When you do Ashwini Mudra, what do you feel? What's happening? The Ashwini Mudra. There is convergence of the 360 degrees anus and it contracts. In that time, what do you feel?
Yeah, I feel the energy. I feel there is. I feel there's. I mean,
It's going up.
I cannot express what that, but I feel it.
A wee bit, an inch or two, it goes up. It depends upon the force you apply for the contraction. I think everyone will be having the same feeling, I suppose.
Yes, that's when we do kayakalpa. But this is what I try to explain is when I do deep meditation, when the instrument measures that I'm very more than alpha state, like maybe delta state. That's when the boundary of my body moves away, and when the energy field is there, it's not at the base of the spine, slightly above is where the energy field feels when I do shanti.
Is Madam Lakshmi willing to answer? Lakshmi ma'am, you are there? We'll go to veteran Lal Mohan. Lal Mohan ji, what's your experience?
Welcome. Thank you very much for the wonderful presentation. But I need to go through the recorded version of the presentation once again in order to come up with any clarification. Thank you, Professor Tarunaya. It was a great work, a very nice analysis, as I can intuitively see. But then I need to go through the recorded version once again in order to come back with any clarification, which I will be certainly be doing. Thank you very much.
Lal Mohan ji, what happens when you do the Ashwini Mudra?
Okay. When you Ashwini Mudra, when we do the churning of the sexual vital fluid, and the energy rises, so you get a positive feeling.
The center point of the anus, what happens? Do you get a lift there inside?
Yes, certainly. Because by doing the Ashwini Mudra, before doing the Ojas breath itself, you get a lift.
Yes. So I thought that is what is represented in the picture, pictorial representation.
Okay.
Right. How about Shakti Sharavanan?
Vargavanam. Yes, Doc,
Vargavanam.
I'm there. So,
Yes.
what is the question, Doc?
What happens to the anus in Ashwani Mudra?
And of course, when the feel at the Sahasrar, when we keep practicing, we're able to feel that easily. And Swami says the turning up of nerves, yes. So the bio current, the feel we are able to feel.
At the Sahasrar.
Yeah.
Right. But the physical anus itself, does it go up the center point?
So the basic thing we talk about three phenomena. One, the basic particle, biomagnetism, and the fluid. So all three components which are mainly doing, but obviously because of the nervous system all connected to that, obviously we feel that sort of feel. But I don't know because of practicing for quite long, so immediately I don't know psychologically we move into quickly to ojas. So the feel of Sahasrar is very quick. Maybe we may have to observe what's also happening at the Mooladhara level. Yeah.
And the physical state of the anus.
Obviously, so the toning up happens. So normally the brahmacharis, if you look at their physical body, so it's normally it's very much toned up, tuned, and so we don't see the flesh and other things. It's very fluid. It is very rigid. So that sort of thinking, I could see the inner organ also maybe because of the biocurrent moving across all the network in the nervous system. So it also helps.
Okay.
I think it's a wonderful mathematical expression. So nice, Tarunji. So heads off you. I think many more equations would like to hear from you, like Einstein.
Prasadji, Prasad Patala.
Vargavanam. Thank you. So I'm just listening because I think some of you might know I went through a major car accident just 10 days ago. I'm just recuperating and just listening through it. Coming to the specific question, I think the contraction and relaxation of the anal sphincter muscles is creating a central force. As a result of it, there's a churning action. And as a result of that, there is the life force particles are started spinning either way. And because of that central line which gets established, then the condensation, or not the condensation, I would say the concentration of the life force particles happens. And with the ojas breath, then it streamlines the next step of the the next step of the kayakalpayoga. This is my little understanding. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Okay. Devi madam, this is kayakalpa. Manisha, what do you feel?
Sir. Sir, while doing Ashwini Mudra, when the focus is at the anal muscles, I feel, as you mentioned, the contraction and lifting up, and also a lock kind of thing happens on its own. Like after, like as Shakti sir also mentioned, the Sahasrara and Agnya vibration also immediately happen, but also a lock happens at the Ashwini area, the anal muscles area, and sometimes you feel a heat, sometimes churning vibration at that point, and the awareness goes inside the body. It's not at the bodily, it's not at the tissues or muscles, whereas it is somewhere inside, and the body doesn't release. Like if that awareness is so much, even the mudra is not released and a lock happens, and then the energy flows upwards and one can feel the sensations going up the spine to the Muladhara, to the Agnya and Sahasrara.
The sexual vital fluid is condensed and the life force particles are separated from the sexual vital fluid, right, doctor?
Yeah, that is the, I think, theoretical part. I was just explaining practically how one feels. Like,
Yeah,
yeah.
I agree with you. That's a
Yeah.
different question. I mean,
Okay.
I have an
Dr.
observation.
Devi?
Yes, Meena Purima.
I have an observation while doing the Ashwini Mudra. Like whenever I try to contract the anal muscles, it is like pulling it upwards slightly. And every time we pull it up, it is like our consciousness is touching the energy field over there. So every time we pull it up and it touches the energy field, which is the genetic center. So I feel that field. So this is my observation.
Thank you. Dr. Devi?
So, Tarunji, as you put the picture, right, can you go to the energy flow? Yeah, this one, not that one. Next,
This one?
before
This
the day
one.
goes on, is this one, yeah. So when we do Ashwini Mudra, this is what is happening. That's what I feel. Because when we pull, when we pull, the energy goes till Sakasradharam, and then it's coming back again with a push. And this energy field is happening while we are doing Ashwini Mudra.
no, it is.
Because again, if we need to pull, first time we are putting Ashwini Mudra, and the second time we need to put, for that energy has to go down so that we can put the second time. So this will perfectly matching the energy flow while we do Ashwini Mudra. It's not only between Muladharam and Sahasradaram. The energy circulation also, it is there, energy, Sahasradaram, Muladharam, but it's happening this way. Please correct me if I'm.
This flow is already there, even if we don't do Ashwini Mudra or not. It's
With the force and consciousness, right? Both are applying here. So it will, what we do Ashwini Mudra is to tighten the string, right? So tightening the nerves. So this flow will be corrected.
The picture shows
Can I say something?
I mean, Tarun, if you look into the picture, the lines combining at the perineum or at the Mooladhara, it is having a central dip inside or a bulge, which is similar to the one which you have brought about in the picture.
These two.
Both correspond to each other, isn't it?
Yes, I am.
So that is a point to know. And here, the pelvic floor contains 3 openings. One is the anus, in front of it is the birth canal, and in front of it is the urethral opening. The 3 openings are there, the bottom, the pelvic floor. And Ashwani Mudra combines all the 3. In urination, our focus is to the front and urethra, urinary passage. In childbirth, it is on the central vagina. And when we defecate, pass motion, it is on the posterior one. And here, the cervix or actual Mooladhara is present just in front of the anus and 2 inches within. And that corresponds to the opening, the cervix the mouth of the uterus. And it is that point. When we do Ashwini Mudra, the anus can go up and touch the cervix. And here, the passage in front is the urinary passage, is surrounded by the prostate gland, the lower region. At the neck of the bladder, the prostate is there. And behind the prostate, posterior wall of the prostate, you have the seminal vesicles that store the semen. And the process of kayakalpa involves churning the contents of the pelvis. And this was brought to my notice by Dr. Swatantra Devi. And ever since that I came to know, aware of that fact that it is the seminal vesicles are in the posterior part of the thing. And with that in mind, when I do Ashwini Mudra, the peak of the anus muscles, they go and touch the seminal vesicles. If we intend, which we have an intention to bring the Ashwini the anal peak axis and touch the seminal vesicles, you have a different feeling. Will that improve the results of the Kayakalpa is one of the questions which I have, which I have to look into. And what Tarun said.
So this point is what I've been trying to bring into this Kayakalpa practice for the past 4 or 5 years. That why do we have two terms, Ashwini Mudra and Moola Bandha? So are they not different practices or are they same practice? We say Ashwini Mudra and then Moola Bandha, but in the practice we do only contraction of the anus. But according to yoga, these two are completely different. See, constricting the urethral passage is called Vajroli Mudra. Contracting the anus is called Ashwini Mudra. And Moola Bandha is contraction of the perineal floor. The whole perineal floor, if you're sitting, the perineal floor is like a hammock, maybe it even touches the floor. But when you do the whole perineal floor, if you contract, it just goes up. So there is something called a perineal body. That perineal body is a tendinous structure where all the perineal muscles come and get inserted into that point. And just above that point is supposed to be the Mooladhara Chakra. So I have shared that picture also to Dr. Rabi, and I think in his presentations he has given. Now I can't share it now. So they have, my guru has always, he's written diagram where it shows where the Mooladhara is in the men and in the women. Like the Rabi said, it's in the posterior aspect of the cervix in women, and then in men, the center of the perineum, the perineal body, just 1 inch above that is the Mooladhara Chakra. So contracting the whole perineal floor is what is Moola Bandha. And Moola Bandha has got, it's supposed to be the master key for any spiritual process. That is Moola Bandha is supposed to be the master key. And Ashwini Mudra is a very, very essential precursor for Moola Bandha. Because of Ashwini Mudra, what happens is the parasympathetic system is activated. And then after that, when you do a Moola Bandha, then that Mooladhara Chakra gets squeezed, and then that is how, and of course the breathing is there. With that, the heat is increased in the Mooladhara Chakra, and because of the increased heat and the pressure, because of these two, whatever energy is in a condensed form in the Muladhara, it gets evaporated into a gaseous form, and then the Ojas breath creates a negative energy inside the body, inside the Sushumna Nadi, and then it is sucked up, and that is how it reaches the Sahasrara. So that is the teaching of thing. I've been trying to bring it into the system for 4-5 years, but I'm not able to do it. Maybe Rabi will be able to. Next time I can show you the picture as how the Muladhara is. And to listen to Dr. Tarun and to see that the exact space he said that it is inside is definitely, that's what we've been saying all along. Thank you.
Thank you, Ma. Very well.
Yes. Your study has shown very many points. What Maharishi has postulated before the era of scientific findings, he was able to see that by inner vision. And the place of Muladhara genetic center is a fluctuant point, moves according to the energy dynamics of the body. That is also validated. And the part which I said, when the anus is lifted up within the body at the peak of the contraction of the Aswani Mudra, it can come to the front and make an impact on the seminal vesicles. So that is a point to be studied more. And I think this is a very unique study, original study. We have to congratulate Tarun for his solitary, individualistic study which he has done. People are joining together in big numbers to study at CERN and other places. And here he has done a simple, personal, he has subjected himself to the study, and that has given this result. And if I know mathematics, I will be able to appreciate it still better. Anyway, this is something original and solid, contributory, confirming the belief we had in the spiritual sayings. It conforms to that, and it is a very big study. I think all of you should appreciate it and acknowledge his effort. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, Varga. I think in the interest of time, I think we should conclude the session today. If there is anything, we'll talk next week. Lakshmi Amma, do you want to?
I வாழ்க வளமுடன். Sorry, I joined only late. I was in one Agathaiva class. I will listen to the video once Mriji ma'am shares. Then I'll just personally message you. Yeah. Sorry,
Sure.
I missed it.
No.
Just heard all the reviews and I felt very bad because I missed it. I'll surely hear and come back to you. Yeah.
Sure, Amma, anytime, just reach out to me. I'll explain anything.
Sure, yeah. Thank you. Thanks for all your time. Yeah, வாழ்க வளமுடன்.
Thank you for the beautiful presentation, Tarun. It was a beautiful blend of deep intuition, science, and Guru's wisdom. I need some time to reflect on everything, but it was inspiring.
Sure, absolutely. So if you need more question and answers, just reach out to me. I can explain my methodology and give you more referral papers if you need more understanding on the mathematics side. I can do that too. So,
thank you.
sure.
Yeah, Tarun, this is Mani. Actually, I'm new to this group, but I'm practicing Vedhathiri's practice for a while. But it's a wonderful session. I really impressed. Like I follow Vedhathiri's principle, but some of the things are without explanation. I'll try to believe on Guru and I'll just follow. But this makes track like continue with the scientific approach. So really a great presentation, and it is a eye opener for so many questions.
Thank you.
Arun Master, I was really awestruck by seeing your all the presentation and all the works you have done so far in these many years, subjecting yourself to all these studies. Really good to have these conversations, and it is really a good thought process. We have to prove this in a scientific way, and all knowing all these, it is very good for me, and it is very helpful for me having this thought process. Thank you, Tarun Master, for your lovely presentation.
Sure, thank you. So just to let you know the background, like I have a mathematics background and a computer science background, but just to learn stochastic calculus, I enrolled myself to university, and I'm still studying in the university under certain professors. So I just don't want to come and say certain things and say, okay, this is what it is. I applied it. I'm learning stochastic calculus for the past 5 years under like many professors in the university, and then is when I'm trying to get all this together. So definitely it's a lot of effort behind the scene, but all I want is to make sure that everybody understands that what takes so many years is actually given to us very simplified by Maharishi, very, very simple, intuitive way. That's why I was talking. At any point of time, I have like 10 books of Maharishi sitting there. I sit there 3 a.m. in the morning. I was like, what is this going on? And then suddenly Rabindranath calls me, and we sit through certain sessions, and he opens up my mind process. So it's all great people, great teachers around. I'm just an instrument trying to make them all together as one presentation. So
thank you, Tarunji. Very courageous presentation, and I'm overwhelmed by the effort, the dedication that you have. It's very inspiring. Your presentation always makes me, go back and see for myself if I have really understood things well. But very, very inspiring personally for me. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom. Thank you.
thank you.
Tarunji,
Hi, Philip.
thank you so much for your fantastic presentation. I appreciate all your efforts, and then as I am engineer, I know these mathematic elements, and they're so fantastic presentation. But yes, I need to go deeper, but your efforts, your dedication is very hard work. And then I want to tell something about because I joined late, but understand our body is like one magnet, one like the Earth planet, and then the meridians, the lines of the magnetic particles of light particles go from head up to anus, from a little outside, but I think that I want to conform these lines of life particles is going through suchumna, through the spine, from down to up. I think so. Natural form, natural way. Then with Ashwini Mudra, we can push this more, but I think in natural, the magnetic of the body the particles always is coming from down to up. I think so. That I want to confirm. And then what tell Rabindranath, doctor, tell Ashwini Mudra extending this contraction to the urethra is feeling more this pushing up. And then that is like tell Swatantra Madan very nice explanation about the Mula Bandha and Ashwini Mudra. When we extend this contraction in the pelvic region, is become Mula Bandha. And then Mula Bandha is one very value technique in yoga. And then we can feel more this pushing up. And Dr. Rabindranath tell us what we feel in Ashwini Mudra. I feel a contraction of muscles, anus, up to like up to navel is physically, but the energy really afterwards is feeling up to Sahasrara. But the muscles is all the around and surrounding. No, it's not. All the muscles is coming up with the contraction of the anus or of the pelvic region like this. But anus, Ashwini Mudra is only contraction of the anus, but with extend is coming this Mula Bandha. Okay, I don't know if I am explain. I am tell something clear. Sorry, my English, but thank you so much for all the group, because as Rabindranath Dr. tell, studying in group is so enrich our knowledge. Thank you so much.
Sure, Amma. Yes, absolutely. I agree with you. So given that the interest that has been showed, so my next thought process obviously was to work on the divergent series where the energy moves away from the body. Next would be is to have the physical body see there's two parts to it. When the energy goes away, the one energy comes back into Mooladhara. The third one is how the movement happens from Mooladhara to Sahasradhara through Sukshma Nadi. So that's another work that I'm intent to do, but that's even more subtler. So I will need more biological help. So I'll probably take more help from Dr. Devi and Aya on that, and more around the physics. I'll talk to more Rajmohan Aya more about that. So again, anybody who is interested, please do reach out to me. I can collaborate the work with you. So I have Ashwin Shahji. I thought he would be here today. He wasn't. So I'll present this to him, and he's interested in this as well. So yeah, definitely collaboration helps. More people, more mind, and more thought process would be more to get into that.